All right, welcome back to the Speaking Spring podcast series. Today we're joined with special guest Paxton Wall. We're going to introduce Paxton and jump into today's episode. Um, I've known Paxton really my whole life, and kind of through turkey hunting we got reconnected last year. But Paxton, we appreciate you jumping on here and spending some time to talk to us.
Yes, sir, man. Glad to be a part of it.
All righty, well, we'll jump into a few things. So first off, we're at the release date of this, we're pretty much through the month of January, which to me is really the harder or longer month, I should say, to get through. Um, it's February is the shorter month out of the two, and once you're in March, you're pretty much there. But time's a ticking. We're getting closer. It's you know it's time's moving slow, but we're on the way to getting there. Will.
Yeah, it'll be here before you know it. You got yeah, like you said, usually that month of January it goes by kind of slow. February gets here, the weather's still the same, but that back end of February is usually when a lot of people start getting out and doing a little bit of scouting and checking their properties and getting cameras back out and just kind of seeing what they got to work with turkey season coming up, and usually that whole month of March is wide open. That's all you can think about, but definitely going by pretty slow right now.
All right. Yeah, Paxton, you you called me probably a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, asked me if I'd been bit by the turkey bug, and we talked a little bit about turkey hunting. Are you doing anything right now to get yourself prepared for turkey season, or thinking about it, or whatever it may be?
Man, if I could only count how many times I've already put my turkey vest on and walked around the house, probably annoying the rest of my family with my calls and whatnot, you probably wouldn't believe it. But outside of that, yeah, I mean, I've already got my cameras going. Got some stuff on the ground to keep them happy, at least until turkey season gets here. But got a couple traps out, trying to keep the predators down. But yeah, I mean, duck season rolls in and I get all hyped up for duck season, but about after the second wood duck shoot, it seems like the bug bites me real hard.
All right.
So I've pretty much already counted duck season as a loss, and I'm ready.
All right. Yeah, we and Will have talked about that several times, and you know, my mindset is kind of not trying to think about turkey hunting because I love it so much until this time of year. But um, I love the deer hunt, I love to fish, I love the duck hunt, but man, to me, all those things are just passing time to get to where we are now. That kind of just speeds up the process a little bit. Don't get me wrong, I love doing those things, but that's like I said, it's just really passing time. But Will hadn't duck hunted. Have you hunted at all?
No.
At all this year?
It's like every year, the older I get, I just kind of lose more and more
Yeah,
interest in it.
I feel that. I mean, I don't mess with it much myself, and if I do, I only go if it's gonna be good. But um, like I said, we're here and we're doing the only thing you can do right now when it comes to turkey hunting, which is really talk about it. And
That's right.
that's kind of one of the talking points is you know there's nothing better than getting passionate turkey hunters together to talk about turkey hunting. Like I said, that's really all you can do right now. And for whatever reason, it's just one of my favorite things in the world to do is to just talk about turkey hunting. Um,
Yeah.
so I want to ask y'all as to why that is. Paxton, you kind of lead off as to why you enjoy talking about turkey hunting so much.
I just think for the simple fact that there's very few people who understand it to a scale that we do. I mean, I could sit here and talk about it for days, but I mean, you always have those guys who are only turkey hunters when turkey season rolls in, and then you have a select few who, like you said earlier, just basically do every other outdoor activity to pass time. Now it's shortened down to 1 month, so I feel like that urge of waiting on the season to come in is even stronger now with us having less time to hunt. But I really think that's my main thing is just you don't. It's very hard to find people who can connect with you on the same level.
Right.
And so when you finally get up with a group of people who understand where you're coming from, I feel like there's endless conversations that can be had.
All right. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to beat it. I mean, it, for whatever reason, just talking about turkey hunting just gets your blood going, gets your your feelings on the subject, and it just again, I think it is another process that makes it kind of go by faster. Will.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you and Paxton both said. It's when you can relate to someone with anything in the world. Like if you can have something you love to do and you can relate to a group of people on that topic, it makes it a lot more fun. I mean, I know, for example, like being a coach, if I can get around coaches, when football's getting ready to get geared up and you can just start talking about your plans and talking about what you want to do, I mean, it gets you fired up. Well, it's the same thing with turkey hunting. I mean, it's different now if you're talking like Paxton says, somebody that just kind of, okay, well, turkey season's here. All right, I'm all in on turkey season. Compared to somebody that for 12 months out the year, they think about it. Yeah, they pass time hunting deer and hunting ducks and all that, but there's a different type of passion that comes from people like us and Paxton and people we know. And when you can relate to someone with that kind of passion for this hobby, man, I'm telling you, yeah, I could like Paxton. I could talk about it for days and days and days and days. And that experience is what's probably the best thing about turkey hunting is just talking about it, relating to people on it, and especially the ones that truly care about it and have a lot of passion for it.
All right. Yeah. And like, I think each and every one of us in this room, or Bill and I in the same room, Pat's on the phone, we would all agree that, you know, there is no such thing as a great turkey hunter. You cannot be great at turkey hunting. You cannot be good at turkey hunting. It's physically impossible. But there's one guy that sticks out above all the rest, which is Dave Owens, that I think everyone really in the turkey hunting world, agrees he's probably one of the better, if not the best. And I remember listening to a podcast, him talking about it. Like a turkey hunter is a person that thinks about turkey hunting 365 days a year. It never stops. So to piggyback off y'all's point is like, you know, that's what makes being passionate about turkey hunting and talking about it different than just talking about turkey hunting. Like that's not in my mind the same two things. Is like y'all both said.
Yeah.
Um, so we're gonna kind of talk about turkey hunting, and turkey hunters are weird, and I say that as from a turkey hunter myself is like turkey hunters, and y'all can vouch for this. Turkey hunters will go to the greatest extent to kill a turkey. Like there was times when I was in high school that if I was on a turkey, I completely just would not go to school. You're almost willing to lose a job, lose an unserious relationship, whatever it may be, and all this builds up to say when you're a turkey hunter, you really find these certain things you like to use, whether that's calls or you find a certain gun you want to shoot or certain shell you like to use. Turkey hunters find these things and they won't ever get off of them. Whereas deer hunters, you may find a deer stand brand you like, but you're not going to use that same deer stand and go to great lengths to use it, whereas turkey hunters do. So I want to ask y'all, it's kind of a long build up to what I was going to say, but superstition, like, do y'all have any superstitions per se that y'all carry into the woods with y'all in the springtime in the mornings? Paxton.
Yeah, I'll kind of go back to the Dave Owens topic. I'm not really sure if this is considered a superstition to some people, but um, I didn't really start off my turkey career doing this. I was just always more excited about killing the bird and didn't really slow down to think about what happened. And whenever I started watching his videos, he's just such a laid back guy. And anybody who's listening to this, watching it, y'all will 100% understand what I mean whenever I say he's like probably the most laid back turkey hunter I've ever watched. I mean, you have all these other guys on YouTube or whatever, and they kill a turkey, and it's very visible that they're hamming it up for the camera. But I mean, Dave Owens is just the most genuine guy I've ever seen. And I started taking his approach after I harvest a bird by just sitting down on the tree with the turkey and just kind of taking it all in. And I know that might sound corny to some people, but I guess it's like the saying goes, don't knock it till you try it. It'll really make you connect with what's going on. But like I said, I don't know if that would really necessarily be a superstition, but it's definitely something that I've acquired over the past couple of years and added to my, turkey hunting.
Yeah, for sure. We'll Will and I have talked about that same thing, is like appreciating the moment and enjoying the moment instead of rushing through it. Because like you said, it's a shortened season now compared to what it was, and even then it was short. So you really don't have as much time to take it in. And if you slow down and really appreciate the moment that we're gifted, then you kind of can relate to the bird more and relate to the moment a little more. And I mean, yeah, I can certainly relate to that. I feel like myself, I'm a very superstitious person when it comes to turkey hunting. I'm superstitious with a lot of things, college football, golf. I'm superstitious, but turkey hunting especially. When I find a certain thing that works for me, I'll stick to that. Like when I 5 or 6 years ago, I started using this particular Woodhaven call, and I used that call until the reeds busted out of it because I loved it so much. I wouldn't use anything else. And now I found a different call, and same way about it. Same way with shells and camouflage or whatever it may be. And in particular, last year, um, after about I think I've talked with you, Will, about this before, but after like the second or third turkey that I witnessed die last year, I feel like I was wearing the exact same camouflage for both of those birds, and I got to the point where I was like, I'm not wearing anything else but mossy oak green leaf for the rest of the season. And I kid you not, like I don't know if it worked or not, but that was my superstition last year. Is like if I wear mossy oak green leaf in the woods, turkey's gonna die. Now that probably wasn't the case more times than not, but that was my particular superstition last year. Was you know whatever reason when I wore a leafy suit and green leaf and my panola hat, it all seemed to come together. Will.
Yeah.
I
Go ahead,
go
Patrick.
ahead, Will.
Yeah, I was gonna say that like turkey hunters definitely have a lot of superstitions and little niches about themselves, and to kind of piggyback off what Paxton was saying, it's something until right now it kind of hit me and I realized like sitting down on a tree, with the bird or now when you're alone and you get to do that, it kind of gives you a sense of you know it's a way of like getting to connect with the Lord because like Charlie said, it's a gift that you're being presented. I mean, he put them here, and then he ultimately helps you pull that off, and you kind of get to sit there in that moment and just you get to soak it in. But we all know as turkey hunters that a turkey is going to humble you, like big time. There's going to be
100.
times whenever you're going to get you're going to pissed off, and but they will humble you. But then whenever that all comes together, and you get to sit there and soak that in. It's like you were saying, Passion. It's one of the best feelings in the world. Now, if you got somebody with you, it's pretty fun too. Because like me and Charlie have done that a lot, on the YouTube the last couple of years, just kind of sitting there talking about it, sharing the experience and everything. But as far as an actual, materialistic type superstition, I mean, there was times last year where I mean, we were on hot birds, and I'd keep the same clothes on. I'd wash them, but I'd keep that same camo pattern on. Like I wouldn't change it because you kind of get it in your head, like, okay, this is working for me. I got a shotgun 2 years ago. Wasn't that 2 years ago I bought that new gun?
Yeah, and that's been a killer.
And I can remember, getting it that day when I bought it, and it was just kind of a leap of faith thing. Like I'm gonna get a new gun. I've heard that it's the Beretta A300 Ultima. And I was like, shoot, I'll try it, leap of faith. And that season, I mean, we started laying them out. And
Yeah.
I'll never forget whenever the first bird we killed to get me and Charlie killed together that year, was my first bird that year. And I told Charlie, sitting on the tree, it's in the YouTube video, I think I got a turkey gun of a lifetime. There was just something about it. And it's weird. People say, well, how are you connecting with a gun? Like it's a gun. And I was like, well, something sparked that day,
Well,
and then Charlie laid a couple out that year, and then since we've killed more. And it's just kind of you get superstitious about it. You don't want to pick up another gun.
and I feel
Yep.
like I need to add to that and point out that first turkey you kill with that gun, it probably adds to it that first turkey you kill with that gun was a hammer. I mean,
I'll never kill a bigger
he
turkey.
was the heaviest turkey I've ever felt in my life. I mean, he broke for sure the county record and may have tied the state record for weight, and it was just like an absurd thing to happen. And like you said, it was with that particular gun for the first time, and
So that would definitely be why I'm superstitious snake
Yeah,
hunting. I mean, I don't think I'll always take care of it, but even when it's collecting rust and I'm 75 years old and I'm trying to wobble out there, it's still going to be, on my shoulder. I'll probably never pick up another gun. So,
Yeah, I feel like we're all pretty much on the same wavelength whenever it comes to the camo and guns. I can remember the first couple years I turkey hunted, I pretty much threw on anything in my closet that was camouflage. It didn't have to match. I could be wearing mossy oak bottom land with some, real tree pants and just a green hat and some hand me down vest with a buddy's gun or something. I mean, just a total mismatched outfit all around. And I didn't really have any care in the world. I was just out there to have a good time. And I guess as I've got older, I've just, you know, started to like different things. And I'm the same as Charlie. I bought a complete greenleaf outfit: my hat, gloves, mask, breeches, shirt, vest, boots, my guns, even greenleaf camo. And you couldn't catch me dead hunting anything but mossy oak greenleaf right now.
yeah,
And then until I get a bad feeling or some bad luck, whichever happens first, I'm probably not going to change it up.
yeah. I've often tried to explain that to people. Is like, and looking back now, it's kind of stupid that I tried to explain it. I guess because I guess they just didn't understand. But like, why do are you a brand person? And I say no, I'm not a brand person. But when you do this for long periods of time and you find certain things you like, you refuse to use other things. Like I refuse to shoot anything other than Apex. That's just
Yeah.
my preference, and it's what I've used and what I've worked or what has worked for me. And people say, well, yeah, you spending all that money, yada yada, and that's fine. But and I could be the same if I shot long-barreled XR and killed 27 turkeys with it. I would still be shooting long-barreled XR, but I was
Yeah.
shooting some double X and I'd miss a turkey with it. When I miss a turkey, that all goes out the window. Like I'm not gonna keep shooting the same crap at a bird that I miss with, and that was it my fault 100%. But I'm gonna blame it on something else. It ain't gonna be my fault. I mean, I'm gonna blame it on anything in the world other than myself. I mean, that's how turkey hunting goes, I guess.
I feel like, too, kind of off topic for the superstition thing, but not really at the same time. It's like you find something that works, and let's say you're an all matching camo guy like me. Like I'll feel off if I'm not complete matched out. But then you can look at it from this perspective. It's like, you wait all year long, 11 months out of the year for 1 month of turkey hunting, and you know that you've killed birds before in this certain camo or with this gun or whatever it may be. The last thing I'm going to do is wait 11 months for turkey season to roll around and for me to bust a bird or for me to, mess up a turkey hunt because of the color britches I got on, or because I wanted to try a different kind of shotgun shell or a different gun or whatever it may be. Like, I think that is the craziest thing in the world. People are willing to take those kind of risks. So I guess that adds to it. But
I fully understand that. I've made that mistake of, well, this year I'm gonna shoot this gun or this shell or use this call, and I run out every bird in the county on the first day of turkey season. Uh, 2 years ago, I think, me and Will went in and we hunted a turkey, and it was the first time using this 410, and I ended up continuing to use this 410. It worked out in my favor, but that opening day, I missed a turkey at 35, 40 yards and ran every bird out that place for the rest of the year. And I'll never forget Will telling me pretty much straight up without telling me, that was your chance at a bird at this place. And he was right. I never hunted that place again as far as having success goes. And, um, I've made that mistake before, for sure. Paxton, you kind of jumping to another subject here. Um, you recently, I think as of last year, completed your Grand Slam. I want to
that's right.
hear some of your stories. We'll go bird by bird and kind of hear this. Obviously, we're not going to talk about the Eastern because you've killed plenty of those in your life, but I want to hear about each bird and where you killed each bird. Just kind of give a little short story to those. I've heard the Osceola. I think Will and I both have heard the Osceola, but still, go ahead with each one.
Okay. Um, So I guess I'll start with my first one toward my slam. Me and a buddy, we had came up with the bright idea to go and try to kill a Rio. So we scheduled a trip out to Oklahoma. We flew out there. This guy had a really good setup. He had a cabin, provided the meals and everything, and it was completely self-guided. He basically just gave you a place to stay, dropped you 3 coordinates, and me and the guy, the guy I was with, we kind of came up with a game plan, went out that afternoon that we arrived, and we had roosted a bird. And the layout's completely different out there. Pretty much anywhere in the Midwest is going to be different than here. I mean, there's no trees at all, so that's obviously a game changer. Just rolling hills of, kind of knee-high grass. It was beautiful. Never seen it before other than pictures. So, we kind of sat down and discussed how we would approach it. And out there's little hedgerows of trees, and usually they're in the bottoms of these valleys. They usually have water, so I mean it makes sense that the birds roost there. It's the only trees there, and there's water. So I mean, what more could a turkey ask for? So that's what we kind of went out and looked for, and I mean that's obviously where the birds were roosted. So we went out the next morning, got on a bunch of jakes, like 15 or 20 jakes came in on us. Obviously, that's not what we went to kill. So we packed up and went and got a bite to eat and came back about lunchtime. And that same bird that we had roosted that afternoon, we hit one call and he was fired up. So we dropped down into this creek bottom and walked into this hedgerow of trees. We were in like the dead middle of that hedgerow, and we kind of got around a corner where there was an old road bed kind of in the middle of this hedgerow. And I said to the guy I was hunting with, I said, let's just stay on this side of the corner so that way he has to break that corner to see us, because there was no other way for him to see. It was just that one road bed in that hedgerow of trees. And I mean, it was probably one of the easiest turkey hunts. I say easiest, that's a very strong statement, because really nothing about turkey hunting is easy, but it just happened so, picture perfect. We hit the call like 2 or 3 more times. He responded, and next thing I know, he popped out around the corner, and I shot him. And that was really all it was to that.
Yeah,
Like I said, it was a very picture perfect hunt. Really nothing you could have even critiqued about it. It was definitely cool to experience that kind of layout. It's very hard to maneuver the landscape whenever you have no trees to get in and hide. The hills definitely help, but they're definitely a struggle on your body for sure.
right.
And I guess to lead to the next bird,
Before,
Nebraska is where I
before
killed my mirror.
I hate to cut you off real quick. Before you jump into the next, I want to ask you something real quick.
Yep.
Were you in like western Oklahoma where it's like sand and cactuses, or were you in like central Oklahoma, or where were you located when you
So we
killed?
were in the panhandle of Oklahoma. We could the morning we hunted, we could see Texas from where we were hunting.
Right.
So that no, it wasn't really sandy or cactus like. It was just like I said, like knee tall grass, like broom sage, I guess would be the closest thing to compare it to.
Right.
But yeah, that was
Yeah.
fun.
We're like I said, we kind of talked about it. I'm for sure heading to Oklahoma. I don't. Will you don't. You're not sure yet about heading to Oklahoma, correct?
With work, I don't know yet.
So that's going to kind of be something I'm trying to do this year as well. As before we jump into the next one is
Well, I don't mean to cut y'all. When did y'all go, Paxton?
This was like late May.
Late
Our
May?
season's
Gotcha.
already out.
Gotcha.
we're going I guess technically the first week and a half ish of May. It's like May 5th or the 10th or whatever. But before we jump to the next one, that's something that Will and I are going to kind of start chipping away at this year.
Yep.
Is working on our Grand Slam. Now, obviously, we don't know how far it's going to go or anywhere else, but this will kind of be the first year where it's a possibility. But yeah, go ahead and jump into the next one. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. So yeah, that was pretty much it for the Oklahoma hunt. Like I said, picture perfect. And then we traveled to Nebraska for our Miriam, and that was a little different. There was a lot less trees. The rolling hills were pretty much the same. But we got there, And the guy was, he told us we don't hunt roost here because there's very little trees. So if you, kind of hunt the roost, you're going to mess up the whole roost, and they'll probably never roost in those trees again. Because, I'm serious. It'd be a group of 40 to 50 birds roosted in 10 trees. So, it made sense to, not go hunt them right off the roost. So basically how they had it set up out there is they would just kind of ride you around properties. And if you saw turkeys, the hills were so big, if a bird was at the top of a hill, you could just keep driving. They wouldn't really pay you any attention, and you could get on the backside of the hill and just kind of get to that bird's blind spot without him seeing you, like, no problem, which was crazy to me because that would never happen here. It seems like turkeys don't have blind spots here. They can always see you. And we actually, the way we hunted those birds, and I'm sure it's different for other people, but we would get behind, basically reap them. We would, see the birds on the hills or in the valley or whatever. We would get to their blind spot, and we would just get behind that decoy, the full strut decoy. And the bird I killed, he was with like 25 hens. And we, kind of crawled through this valley, and he was on top of the hill. So we passed the valley and started working uphill with that decoy. And he finally broke off those hens. And that was pretty much it for that one. Didn't really consist of any calling or sitting and waiting. I think we were in Nebraska for about 2 hours, and I had killed a bird. So that was definitely eye-opening to me, just to think you can hunt all year long where we're from and never experience something like that.
Right.
But yeah, like I said, the layout was kind of the same except less trees. But it's definitely, I'm glad y'all are going. That'll definitely be a good experience for y'all to experience that layout out there.
Right. Yeah, Nebraska's Nebraska's on our radar, and the reason I say Nebraska is, as far as relative closeness. Now, don't hold me to this, but I think Nebraska would technically be the closest for a Merriam's, and that's Northwest Nebraska, which is still like a freaking 20-hour drive. It's a tote, but I think that, and relatively, I think I'm correct, is that would be the closest Merriam option. Maybe New Mexico or Colorado, but we are looking at Nebraska, and again, that ain't set in stone or anything, but I guess that would be the closer option as far as that goes. But
Yeah.
you can go ahead with the Osceola.
Yeah, I would say this is probably my favorite. And it's not a shot at the Merriam or the Rio. I think I just had 2 really good hunts on those birds, and I'm very grateful and thankful that I was able to accomplish something like that. But I will say, I still think the Osceola in the Eastern beats those 2 birds out of the subspecies, just because, I grew up hunting Eastern, so I was more used to the challenge of killing one, not necessarily the, bam, bam, kill the turkey. It wasn't like that for the Osceola. We were there for 3 days in total, and we were hunting cow pastures, and they don't really have pine trees out where I was hunting either. It was really just oak trees and like palm fronds that kind of grow in the swampy areas. So those birds don't really cross those patches of the palm fronds out there. And it could be an acre of nothing but palm fronds. So, those birds will have to circle that whole block. They won't cross it because it's so thick. But we were headed in. The guy that went with me, he killed a bird, and they were actually talking about heading in for the afternoon. And the guy's land that we were hunting, he said, I got one more spot on the way back if you want to try it. He said, usually you can get a bird to gobble here in the afternoons. And I was like, well, yeah, I hadn't killed a bird, so I'm still on edge to kill one. And he dropped me off, and I walked probably 500 or 600 yards into the dead middle of this property, and there was basically a big oak grove running through the middle of the property, and it was really the only shade that this block had. So I headed toward that. I figured if there was going to be a bird in the area, he would be, in the shade, as hot as it was. And I hit the call, and he gobbled basically on the other side of this oak grove. Um, so I kind of tried to cut the distance in half. I didn't know if he had hens at this point. And the next time I hit the call, it sounded like he was at 30 yards, but I was in between. Me and him, there was a big patch of those palm fronds, like I was saying, breaking us apart. And I couldn't see him, he couldn't see me, and it was almost like he couldn't figure out which way I was moving because I was throwing my calls behind me to try to get him to push closer, but he started looping the wrong way. So I kind of had to play chase with this bird, which is never a good thing. I feel like, usually when you start playing chase, that's when stuff goes wrong. But these oak trees were so big that I could get behind one of them. And I mean, I could fit 3 more of myself behind one of these trees. So I just tucked down behind one of these big oak trees, and I let him, he started pushing away, and I would just move to an oak tree. I mean, they were, fairly close. There was probably a tree every 10 yards or so. And every time he would push a little bit further away, I would move to the next tree to just try to get him to sit still. And eventually I just quit with the calling, period, and was just scratching in the leaves to try to, change it up, because obviously calling to him wasn't making him come closer. So I finally got to probably the 3rd or 4th tree and was still scratching around in the leaves. And he finally came in about 20 yards closer and started looking to see, okay, what's going on here? And that's whenever I just kind of eased to the other side of the tree and shot him. But that was by far out of the slam. I mean, Eastern are still on top just because, they hit right at home. But outside of the slam, that's definitely my favorite bird that I've killed. Like I said, not a knock really to the Rio and the Miriam. It just wasn't really, a challenge like I was used to. It was just more of a wow. This is crazy that this is even possible to kill a turkey, this easy, this simple. But that's pretty much it. And then, I mean, I've been to a couple other states hunting, but that was it for the slam.
So you were you killed 3 out of the 4 last year, so you were 1 state away from single season, right?
Um, Yep. Because I killed the Osceola and the Miriam last year. The Rio was the year before that. Yep.
And did you go? You were talking about going. Did you end up going anywhere at the end of the season last year, or visiting other states last year?
Yeah, I went to Georgia with a buddy. Before our season came in, and we didn't have any luck in Georgia. The landscape was beautiful out there. We were in Thompson, Georgia, but that was the only other state I went to. But
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, we're going to kind of work on some of that this year. I guess the last question I have on that, you said the Osceola was your favorite, but as far as looks go, what
just
it?
1 second, Charlie.
All right.
I'm sorry, I had to throw my phone on the phone charger.
No, you're good. I was saying you said the Osceola is your favorite out of the slam, but as far as looks go, which one of the 4 as far as looks alone, like natural beauty or whatever other bird or even the landscape involved was your favorite?
That's kind of tough. I mean, I would say that definitely not the Osceola because it looked very similar to our birds here, just smaller in weight. But I think I would have to go with the Miriam. The white tips on the feathers was just beautiful. Now they obviously have a lot shorter beard and spurs, so I mean you're not really getting those hooks or rope like you would on a bird here usually. But the feathers on them was very pretty.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Paxton, I got a question for you about the Rio. I mean, obviously, people that are passionate about turkey hunting, watch a lot of YouTube videos and stuff like that, and you can hear a Rio gobble, on your phone or TV or however you're watching it. But I'd
Yeah.
like to know kind of when you get that experience the very first time in person of hearing a Rio gobble, whether it's in the tree, on the ground, whatever. What is that like hearing that, that different kind of gobble for the first time?
So the Rio and the Miriam were very similar. It almost sounded, and this is the best comparison I can have for it, it almost sounded like somebody was sitting 30 yards away from you and pulled up gobbling videos on their phone and clicked play.
Gotcha.
Like it
Like a
I guess
farm
maybe,
turkey.
yep, exactly like that. I guess maybe because there's nothing out there for that gobble to bounce off of. But it's a lot shorter. I mean, these birds around here, it almost sounds like they choke on their own breath while they're gobbling. These are more of like a 2 to 3 note gobble, and then there's nothing for it to echo off of, so that doesn't help. But I mean, it was still cool. At the end of the day, it was still a bird gobbling at you, so still got the same adrenaline rush, but it was definitely a different sound for sure.
Yeah.
Now
Well,
the Osceola was, I mean, you could feel it in the ground.
do they sound any different than ours? They almost sound like they have like you were saying, more of like a monotone, deeper gobble to me. The Osceola, now again, you'd be able to attest to that before I would, but do they sound any different than ours?
I'm gonna be honest. I had so much adrenaline rushing through my body whenever I was hunting down in Florida. I would say it's very similar. I really couldn't pick out a huge difference, especially not compared to the Miriam and the Rio. So I mean, if maybe I went back and was hunting with somebody, I could really listen and try to keen in on what it sounds like. But whenever I had the interaction with mine, I mean, all of the comparisons and whatnot kind of got toned out.
All right. Yeah, we're headed down there in less than 2 months from now, and we're gonna give it a go. I mean, I don't really know what to expect. I think it's probably the hardest, like you were saying, the hardest bird to kill, and probably the most. Well, first off, it's insanely pressured, and there's not much land to find an Osceola to begin with, and there's so many factors that make it difficult. And we're gonna jump into some some other talking points. We got a few left here, but before we jump into, I want to ask if you have any plans right now as of January, whatever, 21st, whatever, to go anywhere out of state this season.
No, not right now. Like we've already touched on, I finished my slam last year and I really enjoyed it. But at the end of the day, nothing hits like home to me. So even whenever I was away from home, working toward a goal that I've always had, deep down, I still, was like, man, I wish I was home. I bet the birds are hot right now, or I would get a picture of one on my phone. So I just kind of told myself this year, I've accomplished my goal. I think this year I'm gonna just stick around home and try to hunt, as much as I can here.
Right.
So,
Well, we, you, Will, and we hunted, I don't know, probably what, 5 days out of the year last year at some point. We hunted together.
yeah.
And me and you, I would say, have one of the funnier turkey stories out of the entire season of mine last year. I think, Will, you've heard this before, I'm sure. Um, Paxton, I'm assuming you know what I'm alluding to. Um, so I'll kind of let you give the rundown on that turkey that we were hunting that day that we found some feathers of, and that's all that was left. But I'll kind of let you give the kind of lead up to this turkey, how you were seeing him, how confident we were about it, and all these
Oh
other
yeah.
factors.
Yeah, I gained permission to a field not far down the road from where I live, and leading up to turkey season, I was seeing this bird pretty much every day around, lunchtime to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He'd be out there by himself, and I was like, man, when turkey season comes in, that'll be a bird I can probably, get on fairly easy with him being secluded like that from other birds. And so me and Charlie decided one afternoon we'd go try him, and we sat up on the edge of this field, and we had sat there for, I don't know, Charlie, what was it, an hour or two?
Yeah, without hearing anything, and in the entire walk into that field, literally every step you took, there was gobbler tracks everywhere, like covering the
Right.
road. And we hadn't heard the first hen cluck, and at that point, we were both like, "Something ain't right."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I ain't gonna say I can't remember, how much rain we had gotten up until this point or whatever it may be, but I mean, I feel like we both knew that those tracks were pretty fresh.
Oh yeah.
So after sitting there, we were basically thinking the bird can't be far. I mean, even if it was a yesterday track, these tracks are leading to these big pine trees. So I mean, he's got to be, at least roosting here or whatever. So we had basically followed the tracks all the way to these pine trees, and we get in here and we start looking around. We hit the call a couple times, nothing, and basically me and Charlie were just like, all right, well, at this point we just need to look around, see what's going on. And we start walking down this road, and I think we both kind of saw it at the same time, but there was a homemade turkey blind made in these pine trees. It basically, somebody cut up a bunch of pine limbs and zip tied or wire tied them to like 2 or 3 pine trees and made basically a box blind out of pine limbs. And I said, man, that don't
So that ain't
not
good.
real. Yeah, that's not a real good sign you want to see. And so we got up to the blind, and I walked in there and picked up a Remington Nitro turkey shell.
And it smelled very,
And
very,
yeah,
very fresh.
yeah, and I smelled it, and I mean, it smelled like it was shot 5 minutes ago. I said, well, uh, this isn't good. So we walked another, what was it, probably 10 or 20 yards.
At the most. At the most.
Yeah, I mean, there was feathers everywhere. And I said, yeah, I'd say these fellows right here, they obviously knew the bird a lot better than me. And then obviously I never saw that turkey for the rest of the year. So that would lead me to say that was the bird I'd been seeing in that field. If I had to guess, he was probably roosting not far in those pine trees, probably, cruising through there in the afternoons, trying to stay cool. And whoever was hunting that property, and I don't want anyone to think that we were trespassing by any means. The guy that was allowing me to hunt the field told me that I could hunt all the way to these pine trees. So, I mean, I was on the line, and then the guy's blind was also on the line. I mean, it really wasn't like we were, trying to go hunt into these trees. We were just trying to find out, if we could find a roost tree or whatever it may be. But, yeah, they obviously had this bird staked out a lot better to me.
That's one of those classic examples of like walking into the woods on your high horse. You're like, man, I'm confident. We know this bird's been in here every single day for the last however long. All we got to do is go in here, strike this turkey. He's gonna be by himself, and that's ball game. You go in there, and with each passing second, your confidence drops and drops and drops and drops. And next thing you know, you find what's left of a longbeard, and you're. I mean, all I could do was laugh. We sat there and laughed at that thing for 10 minutes because we were both like,
What are the odds?
what are the odds of that crap?
Yep.
I mean, just that was kind of stupid in a way. It's like,
Now, this isn't that place that we hunted when the 3 of us went, and that bird
that
was
bird
hung up in that field with the
he
hens.
gobbled and gobbled and gobbled and went the other way.
Yeah,
That was
No, this was a different place, and like Pat said, it was one of those places where these birds are like isolated, and it's in this field.
yeah, and they can only be right here, right here.
Yeah, there's like nowhere for that turkey to go, but right here and right here. If he goes anywhere else, he's gonna have to walk through 10 miles of thicket, whatever it may be.
But we think about it though. We've been there. I know I can say firsthand, being there a lot of times. Like you go to a place and you hadn't hunted a lot, but you get there, you get out the truck, you do some walking, you start seeing gobbler tracks everywhere, and you're like, oh, and these are fresh. Like, oh, hold up now, like I'm about to get on a bird, and then you strike out, or you don't hear anything, you don't see anything, but to walk up and actually see, a kill scene
yeah.
from what sounded like was very
Probably that we hunted that late afternoon. That's probably that morning or midday. Because that shell was fresh. And Paxton, you had seen that's what makes this story crazier to me is that Paxton, you had saw this turkey in this field like literally you said almost every single day.
Yep.
And I mean, it's
Yeah.
one thing like Will was saying to see tracks, but we're seeing a turkey, tracks, a blind, a shell, and here's what's left. Like there's just feathers everywhere, and it was like, well,
Yeah, I would be willing to bet, whatever I'm worth, that was the same turkey, and then I would also be willing to bet that it was killed that morning.
And I would throw into that and say I'd be willing to bet my life savings that it was probably some old fella about 80 years old got in there in his blind that morning and took his double barrel shotgun and shot him old Remington 3.5 nitro, because it was just like one of those setups. And I'm not saying it's against older folks, but it was one of those setups where it was like, this is an old guy that loves turkey hunt, and this is his way of killing a turkey. So it didn't make me feel bad, I guess.
Oh yeah, I mean he definitely had it figured out. It was, I mean, there was no hole in this blind except for like one hole cut out, and it was dead in line with where that turkey was, where the feathers were. I mean,
It,
it was
and
somebody.
it was facing the roost where we assumed this bird would have been roosting. So I can only imagine this bird pitching into this road and then just coming, full strut right down the road at 10 steps. I mean, like he had it played. I mean, he played that game and he won it.
Yeah, it was like you said, all we could do was laugh. There was really no reason to be mad. I mean, it wasn't like he was trespassing. It happened to be lined up perfectly for it to happen for him. So I mean, there was really nothing to be mad about.
Yeah, that's one of the funniest. Like in the moment, that was unbelievably funny. It's one of those things you're like, I don't know what to do but laugh. Like
Yeah.
just I don't know, it's just crazy to even think about it. How that would have had. I remember telling you, Paxton, I would have loved to have been sitting in that line and had a camera on that
Oh yeah.
road. Like I bet that was beautiful. I can only
Yeah.
imagine. But,
I know I'm not really leading the podcast here, and I'm gonna kind of jump back if y'all don't mind me asking y'all a question. But I mean, what's kind of y'all's preparation and route to going out of state some this year? I know you're going to 3 different states as of now, Charlie.
uh, four
Four.
outside of out of South Carolina now. So I'll answer your question in a second. But yeah, so Georgia, or I'll go in order. Florida, Georgia will maybe doing some of that. If Georgia would be like a drive an hour across the line, hunt, come back that day type of deal. So that ain't nothing crazy, but it's still another state. Um, and then Oklahoma or North Carolina would be like during our season if I went. So I don't really
Yeah.
know. That depends. If I kill a bird in South Carolina and I tag out and Will's got to work for 3 or 4 days and I ain't got nothing, nowhere to go or nowhere to turkey hunt, I'm probably going to go to North Carolina for a few days. But that's the one that's up in the air. Oklahoma, and then we're looking. The states that I am currently looking at that are not set in stone is Nebraska, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Maine. Those 3 or 4. I say those because their season dates are pretty long and, into June. So that would give you another few days in the later part of the spring, early summer, even to hunt. So, as far as preparation goes, I mean, we have been wanting to go to South Florida since I was an 8, 9. And we had planned to do it several years ago, and it would always fall through. But this year, there is no turning back. And why I say that is like Will and I were like, "Hey, we're gonna book a hotel, pay for it. We can't get out of this at this point." And
Yeah.
it's we've just kind of been knocking, checking WMAs, checking license pricing, and kind of getting a budget established and a vehicle to go or whatever it may be, whether that's a rental or our own, and saying we're gonna do it and sticking to it. Doing a lot of e-scout, and over the past month, I could not tell you how many times I've looked at OnX hunting, scouting property, and looking at WMAs and trying to get an understanding of habitat. Because, like you were saying, Oklahoma, I mean, it's the most difficult place to read, and especially on a map. And I've
Yeah.
never been there, so I don't know what to expect. I'm looking for trees and water, like you said, and that ain't the easiest thing to come by. And I have no idea the habitat and what birds prefer. And really, it's the same with South Florida. Like I don't really truly understand. I mean, I know about what a turkey would want in South Florida: a palmetto hammock and or an oak hammock and a palmetto flat and some pine. But
Right.
I mean, I'm liable to get down there and it be cut yesterday. I mean, I don't know. But so to answer your question, it's a lot of e-scouting, budgeting, and deciphering plans, and just a lot of talking. Sitting down with Will and talking about things, or whoever it may be that goes.
Yeah. I mean, reason I asked is just obviously it's your trip and you're gonna figure out some things as you go, but I just know if I could, help in any way, like especially Oklahoma and Nebraska. Like I said, there's hardly any trees in those areas, and especially in Oklahoma, there was a lot of cattle, and so those farmers had to have water for those cows,
All right.
and that's where we had most of our luck. Even in Nebraska, there wasn't as many cows, but it was the same thing. A lot of cattle pastures with like cattle ponds, and when there's no, lake or river or creek or whatever, those turkeys are gonna use those cattle ponds like they're theirs.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, and to finish off with that real quick, I watched the hunt in public a decent amount, and I was literally when I decided to go to Oklahoma, I went back and watched their Oklahoma video from last year, and Nick on there was talking about how on their property, which they're in Texas, but it's the same principle. If they have water on their farm, then they have turkeys. But if there's a
right,
dry season, their birds won't roost there, and they'll kind of come through occasionally, but they don't stay on their property. And
right.
this particular year, they had water, therefore they had turkeys, and that kind of seems to be the consensus with those dry Southwest states.
So, are y'all hunting all public whenever y'all go out there?
Yeah, so well, I say that. Yes, unless we can somehow find a permission. Like if we're out stumbling around and we see a turkey strutting in the middle of nowhere and we like, oh well, we can go ask this old lady right here, then yeah, maybe so. But uh Georgia's private. We'll be
Okay.
hunting private in Georgia.
Maybe some W,
Yeah, and
maybe
maybe
some public in Georgia.
maybe some public in Georgia, and we're also going to hunt some public in South Carolina this year. We're going to spend some more time this year doing that, just to challenge ourselves. I mean, turkey hunting never gets easy, but the thing about a turkey hunter is you always want something more difficult. That's what we love about
Right.
it. It's how difficult it is, and so we're going to
Right.
try some more. We tried some public last year and in previous years, but we really do want to work on that a little more this year.
Right.
Well, Paxton, I got probably the last talking point. Kind of a question I wanted to talk with you about and ask you. I can remember last year before the season came in. You and I got together and you were showing me a tract of land and we got to talking about trapping and how so many just could care less about doing it and they
Yeah.
don't see the need in it. They don't, just very stubborn to it. And something that I really stuck out to me when we were together that afternoon was you were talking about how you keep records in a book and
Yep.
you showed it to me and you kind of record your trapping from year to year and place to place. And to me, I think that is something that if you love turkey hunting is a great thing to follow because
Right.
it kind of helps you understand your population, helps you understand your land and how you're managing it, and if there is a decline, maybe why there is a decline. So that is something that really stuck out to me. So I kind of wanted to ask you about that, and ask you how trapping, what kind of impact is it having on the flocks where you hunt?
I definitely in a positive way. And I honestly didn't even remember that I kind of mentioned that to you, but now that you bring it up, I mean that's really the whole reason I've kept a log is just to see if what I've taken off of the property, kind of look at it a year later or whatever, and just see if the numbers are decreasing. Because I mean, if you're catching 50 coons a year for however many years, like I mean, you have a very bad problem. You know what I mean? But if you're seeing a decline in what you're catching every year, obviously it's working, and eventually, even if you don't see growth in your turkey population, quick in a hurry, I mean, it's never going to hurt to take that kind of stuff off your property. I mean, and I know some people, you can't really play the devil's advocate with it. I know that's a big thing with some people is, some people like the coyotes and some people think coons are cool and whatnot. But if you're a true turkey hunter, you got to have an understanding that all of that stuff is hurting your population. And if it's not, great. That just means you have a wonderful turkey population. But that wasn't the case for me. So I started, whenever I started trapping, a bunch of people would ask me to trap their properties. Hey, I got coyotes, yada, yada. But I kind of had to stray away from that and discipline myself to only stick to where I was turkey hunting. And a prime example is a place where I hunt is probably close to 1,000 acres. And I mean, I've deer hunted there my whole life, and growing up, we would never see turkeys during deer season. I would keep cameras out, and never saw turkeys. And here within the last 2 or 3 years, I would trap, and we planted some food plots for them, chufa. And I finally started seeing a difference. Actually, last year, I had 3 gobblers and about 7 hens pretty much on one of those cameras. They would move from, one side of the property to the other throughout the day. And I mean, it was pretty much an everyday thing. So, I mean, I feel like, that's enough proof right there that what I'm doing is helping. I mean, I never was seeing those birds before I started that. And maybe I'm just, trying to give, too much credit to myself, but I mean, it's kind of hard, you know what I mean, to say that didn't help whenever beforehand I wasn't seeing any turkeys and now I am. And it's not only that property, it's other properties too, but that's just probably the most notable one.
Right.
Yeah,
And,
the proof is definitely in the pudding when you do that kind of stuff. I mean,
right,
you have the hard heads out there that are going to talk about that. There's no population decline, and like me and Charlie always say, there's always going to be pockets of turkeys in certain areas. Like you said, some people are just going to get very lucky, and they need to appreciate the fact that they might not have a lot of coyotes, they might not have a lot of coons or possums or whatever is destroying the population in that area, and you should be very thankful if you don't have to deal with that. But
right,
when you have to deal with that, you're taking the right steps.
right.
And it's something I really hope people that need to be doing that can get on board with, because you just gave a prime example of, it pays off. I mean, so
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And Paxton, this is kind of, I didn't think about this until you had said it about coyotes, but after that turkey incident that we found dead or whatever you're gonna call it, we went to a separate property, uh, an hour or so later, and we saw a coyote walking in. Remember, we had literally just got out the truck, walking down the road, and there was a coyote like standing in the middle of the road.
Right.
And yeah, there's nothing beneficial about a coyote in the southeastern United States. I mean,
Right.
you said people that like the coyotes. I can understand. A coon is a natural inhabitor of the southeast. A coyote isn't, and
Yeah.
I don't understand the fact that people quote unquote want them here, like them, or whatever you referred it to as. Like I do not understand why or how. Like they're not. The same thing with a pig, and I don't know if anybody likes a pig, a wild pig. Pigs aren't supposed to be here,
Yep.
and so
I was I was mainly, and I don't know of any turkey hunters that are, like coyotes or whatnot. It's mainly because y'all have been to my side of town before. I mean, there's a lot of agriculture out here. It's mainly your farmers, and I say that, you know, my dad farms, my granddad farms. I have a lot of farming in my family, but I do not agree with it whatsoever. But I mean, they are the ones mainly that don't do anything to control that because of our deer population being so high. They want things that challenge the deer because I mean they're losing so much money, and I understand that they're losing money. That's their livelihood, but at the end of the day, all you can do is control the stuff that you can control, and that's what I said. Like I said, I had to discipline myself to not go out on a limb and help everybody who asked. And I don't mean that in a selfish way, but I mean I really just care about turkeys enough to where if I turkey hunt a piece of land, I'm gonna trap it. You know what I mean? And
no, I mean
I
100%. Like I fully resonate with you, and I'm not gonna go down this rabbit hole in this episode, but as far as farming goes or whatever else may be, um, it's not anyone's fault the deer population's high, but the South Carolina Department of Resources because of the
right,
tag situation and the overpopulation issue. That isn't on anyone, and it dang sure ain't on a coyote. Like I understand what you're saying about having coyotes to control deer numbers, but we shouldn't be in that place in the first place. We shouldn't have
right,
an overpopulation of deer to begin with.
right,
We should have big, nice 140, 100, 150-inch bucks walking around like we used to when things were regulated and there was, not 75 million does per square acre or whatever it may be. And like I said,
yep,
I ain't gonna go down that rabbit hole, but that's
Yeah, you could definitely talk about that for a while. That would definitely be a whole another
Yeah.
episode.
Well, and I say that because you and I have talked about it. The other day when we got on the phone, we talked about all this kind of stuff, and um, but that's I get that should you good if you're good.
Yeah,
I mean that should do it. Do it for this episode. We talked about a lot of crap, not crap, but a lot of things. So with that being said, Paxton, we appreciate you taking some time out of your day. I know I'm sure you're busy. We understand it's hard to carve out time, so we certainly appreciate it. And as far as that goes, we'll catch y'all on the next episode.